Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System. And we are going to make a bracelet today. We're going to do something a little bit different. I saw a necklace where somebody had one side of the necklace completely different than the other side of the necklace. And I thought that would make a really pretty bracelet. So it's kind of hard to explain without showing it to you. And we have to make it until you can see it. But I can tell you what the components are going to be and what my thought process is, my design process is, or thought process. But what we're going to do is have 3 strands on one side of the bracelet and 1 strand on the other side. And the way I'm going to do this, what I thought we would use, we would do 2 small strands on the outside with 4mm rounds. I'm using 4mm Crazy Lace Agate rounds. And then in the center of those 2 rows, I'm going to use mother of pearl shell beads, and they're the irregularly shaped, kind of squared off ones. They don't really have a particular shape, and they're slightly different sizes, which is going to make it fun. And on the other side, we're going to have the rhombus mother of pearl shells, like this, the rhombus shape. So I thought that would make an interesting bracelet. I can't wait to see how it comes out. The other things that you're going to need in regard to tools are round nose pliers, square pliers. And when I say square, I just mean that they're flat on the inside of the teeth, and then outside is slightly rounded, but it's still a square plier. The round pliers are completely round all the way around the teeth. And then we need a pair of cutters. The other components will be 20 gauge wire. Oh, something got in my eye. Anyway, 20 gauge wire. And you can also use 22 gauge wire for this, but 20 is my go-to. And we're going to be making a clasp, so I would stick with the 20 gauge. And jump rings and a connector. This connector at the end. We're also going to use a focal piece. Where is it? Oh, it's not sitting here. Let me get one. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. We're going to use this pretty filigreed rose for our focal piece in the center. And you've seen these before. We've used them for earrings. We've used them for a necklace. And now it's time for us to use it for a bracelet. I think that will be very pretty. So let's get down here to the other camera and get started, because I cannot wait to see how this turns out. All right, so here's what we have. Here are all of our components, and let's go ahead and just get cracking on this. So I'm going to show you how I want this to roll. Basically, we're going to have 3 rows all the way down with our, that's really close, with our semi-precious rounds on the outside and our mother of pearl square beads on the inside. And then we're going to have rhombus beads down the other side. I already set up a couple of these. Just to give you a little idea of what I'm thinking here. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do our links. So the first thing that we want to do, I think I'll start with our outer row. So let's get some wire for our links. Now, those of you who get kits, lucky people who get kits, you're going to have a nice long length of 20 gauge wire. I would suggest that you just go ahead and keep it intact You don't have to. If you'd rather cut it into pieces, you can. And the way to know how much you need is to slide 2 of your beads on, because the outer row is going to consist of links made from 2 semi-precious beads. So I'll slide 2 of my beads on, if I can find the little hole. And then I need about 1.5 inches, or not 1.5 inches, about 1.25 inches, I would say, maybe even 1 inch of wire on each side. You also need a ruler on each side of my beads in order to make my loop and to wrap my loop. So if I put my beads on, I can see that they're approximately 3/8 of an inch in length. So I need 1.25 inches on each side. That's 2.5 inches. And then I need, I'll just say 1/2 inch for these beads. And that is approximately 2.5 inches. If you want to cut them up, just cut 1, measure out 3, just to be safe. And then do your wrap. All right, so what I want to do is give myself 1 inch to 1.25 inches on each side. So I'm going to bend my wire back at the 1 inch to 1.25 inch mark. I'm going to take my wire and slide it down my pliers about 1/3 of the way, 1/4 to 1/3 of the way, because the loops don't need to be that big. And then I'm going to put my pliers, make sure my pliers are just under the short tail of wire. Now, I know sometimes people have a tendency to put it in the corner like this, but that's not correct. You want it to be under the short tail so that it's horizontal on top of the short tail going one way, and the short tail is going out the other way. And then the long tail is vertical underneath. Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to take that short tail of wire, I'm going to bring it over the top of my pliers and down the side until it's vertical like the long tail, just like that. And then without removing my wire, I'm going to hold on to the wire, open up my pliers, rotate them back, grasp the wire again, and bring that short tail of wire, get over here, bring that short tail of wire under the pliers, like so. So now I have a loop. Short tail of wire is horizontal, long tail is vertical, and I have a nice loop on top. So I'm ready to wrap that, but I don't want to wrap it yet because I need to be able to attach it to the other links. So I'm going to leave that like that. I'm going to pick up my two of my 4mm rounds and put them on the wire. And I'm going to go to the other side where the straight wire is. I'm going to bend that wire back in the opposite direction of the first wire. Grab my pliers, slide my wire down my pliers about 1/3 of the way, just like I did the other time. Bring that tail of wire across the pliers and down the side until it can't go any further because there are beads there. And then I'm going to open up my pliers, rotate back, grasp my wire again, and bring that tail of wire under the pliers and on top of where the bead is. Now, I want to show you something. This is fine. This is just fine. But if you have a lot of space in between your bead and your loop, and you don't want that space there, that's an easy fix. All you need to do is go in, take your pliers and put them in the loop, and then rotate that loop down until it's resting on top of your bead. and then straighten out the wire out horizontal again, just like that. And you've gotten rid of that little neck that you had before. Okay, so now I'm ready to wrap that as soon as I link it to my other, one of my other links. Let's do that one more time. So I'm going to take my wire, mark off 1 inch to 1.25 inches in the wire back, grab my round nose pliers, slide the wire 1/3 of the way down my pliers, bring that short tail of wire over the top of my pliers and down the side to meet the long tail, then open up my pliers, rotate back, close my pliers, and bring that tail of wire under the pliers until I have a loop. And let's grab my beads, feed those 2 beads on, then my wire back in the opposite direction of the first wire that I bent, slide my wire down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers, bring my wire across over the top of my pliers and down the side, open my pliers, rotate back, grasp my wire again, and bring that wire under until I have a loop. And once again, I have a little bit of a neck that I don't want, so I'm going to roll that down until my loop rests on top of my beads, like so. Now I can see this one is a little bigger than this one. So I'm going to go back in, slide my wire down about that 1/3 of the way that I had before. And if you can see, there's a tiny little bit of space in between my pliers and the frame of my loop. So all I want to do is pull the tail of my wire until that space disappears and the size of my loop gets smaller so that it matches the other one. There we go. So I can go ahead and cut off my excess wire to save for later. So now let's move on. I've got enough to link here. So let's do the same thing with my square beads. It's the exact same process, except I'm just working with 1 bead instead of 2. So I'm going to bend my wire back, make my loop, put my bead on, then the wire back on the other side. And you use the same measuring process. And by that, I mean, because these are going to be a different size than the rounds that we use, you have to measure those as well. So you'll go ahead and see how long, how much space these beads take up, and then add 1 inch to 1.25 inches on each side, just like you did with the round beads. Okay, make my little loop. Let's get rid of that little neck that's up there. Shells are fun because they are drilled very strangely. So they're a little bit of a challenge, but that's what makes them beautiful. Okay, so we got that. Let's do another one. Need another piece of wire here. Bending my wire back again, make my loop. Put my bead on. And then my wire back on the opposite side. Okay, slide my wire down a third of the way down my pliers. Bring the wire over the top and down the side. Open my pliers, rotate back, and bring that wire between the pliers and my shell. Let's get rid of that little extra neck that I can see down there, just the way I showed you before. And there we go. Cut off that excess, and I think I have enough to use for my rhombus shell, at least one of them. Okay, so I'm going to grab one of my rhombus shells. Let's use this one. There it is. Again, you're going to measure your shell or your bead, see how big it is, add 1 inch to 1 1/4 inches on each side, and that is how much you will need for your loop and your wrap. And I can tell I have way more than I need, which is always lovely. Okay. My loop. Place my shell. And loop it. All right, so we got a good start here. So now it's time to start linking things together. This is what I'm looking at for my bracelets. Let's show you our progression as we go. That's going to go there, that's going to go there, and then we're going to have 2 more that go there. And then that's going to go here. That's going to go there, down the other side. Woo, I'm excited. I think this is going to be pretty, but let's go ahead and start linking some things together. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and attach. Well, let's link one of these first, because I don't want this dangling around until I absolutely have to have it down there. So let's go ahead and do a link first. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close up one side of my loop, one side of my link. So I'm just going to wrap that short tail under my loop. And I'm going to give it a little cap on top of my bead. So I'm just going to keep wrapping until there's a little bit of what we call a cap on top. I was trying to not hold it with the pliers so that you could actually see the cap as it develops, but it's not really possible to do that. Once the wire gets short enough, I need to use my other pliers to continue to wrap. And then when it's as short as it's going to get, I just push the little end of it as close as I can get to the other wraps so that I have a little cap on top of my bead. Let's see if we can get that a little bit clearer. Is that visible? Real softly. How's that? No, I think I've got too much light. It comes and goes. I think that's a little better. All right. All right, next I'm going to attach this link to the open link. So I'm going to take the tail of the open link and I'm going to slide that inside of the closed loop here and let that closed loop drop right down inside of the open link, the open loop. Then I'm going to grab my pliers. Flat is the preferred use for this because if you use your round pliers, it can put little dents in your wire. And unless that's something that you want it to, unless you want it to look like that, you might want to use your flat pliers in order to avoid it. So now I'm going to wrap that tail of wire around 2-3 times until I have a little cap on top of my bead, just like I did before. And then I'm going to take that little end and push it under. Push it nice and close to my other wraps. And you want to do this, you don't want those little ends sticking out because they'll snag on something or scratch your skin, snag on your clothes. That's never very pleasant. Want it nice and close. And I just run my finger over it just to see if I can feel anything. And so there we go. That's my first little link. Now let's go ahead and attach this to our centerpiece. So this is my centerpiece I've got here. And so what I'm going to do is just slide my closed loop, just like I did with the link, inside my open link. Just slide that down until it's inside the loop. And I'm going to take my pliers, hold on to my loop, and wrap the tail around between the pliers and the bead, just like I did before. And again, when it gets too short to do with my fingers, I just use my pliers, my other set of pliers, to finish it off. Just push that end down nice and close to the other wraps. And there we go. That's my first attachment to the focal piece. And then I'm going to attach these other two. But first I'm going to go ahead and attach my outside pieces. They're going to go up like that. So let's see what that's going to look like. Now, the way this is made, it's got little openings right above this loop, which is great. Oh, you know what I did? I did that wrong. This is supposed to be on the outside. This is what you have when you have a work in progress. And this is supposed to go in the center. So I'm going to take that off. So you get to see me do this all over again. Isn't that just lovely? Okay, I'm going to take that off of there. And thank goodness I have these two ready. So I'll go with that. Take that off. Okay, so I'm going to start on the outside. Yeah. I'm going to start on the inside. So this is going on the inside. These are going on the outside. So let's go with that. I've got my square shell. I'm going to slide that open, that little tail over inside of my focal piece loop and let that slide right down inside my open loop. And I'm going to grab that open loop with my pliers, square pliers preferred again, just right in between the loop and the shell. Might be a little bit of a challenge, but you can do it. And make my loop. Let's wrap that around. Squeeze that a little tighter. Yeah. Get that tail. And again, when it gets too short for my fingers to do, I'll use my pliers to do the rest of it. Wrap that around until I have no wire left. And then push that little end as close as I can get to the other wrapped wires. Don't want any little sharp edges sticking out. Good. Here's my first attachment. Let's go ahead and attach the second. The second one. So I can close one. As long as I have one open to attach, that's all I need. Wrap that around. Close up that loop. And then attach my next piece. Slide the tail in the closed loop. And let it drop down in that open loop. Grab my pliers, hold my loop in place, and wrap. And how much you wrap is dependent on the look that you want. If you want a longer tail to wrap, then give yourself 1.5 inches of extra wire. Give yourself 1 3/4 of extra wire. And if you want it shorter, you can just cut it. You know, if you don't want as much of a wrap, you can just cut off what you don't want, which is what I'm about to do, because I've got a nice little cap on the top that looks neat. And I'm going to snip off the rest that I don't need. And just push down that little end against the other wraps so that it's not sticking out. Okay, so there's my center, or the start of it. So now these are going to go on the outside. Let me go ahead and put this on so you can see what it looks like. I'll replace this one later. So I'm going to slide that down in this little opening right beside the loop. So there's my loop. And I've got all of these nice little openings here that I can put the other beads in. So I'm just going to slide that in, wrap it closed. Oops. That end is down. Good. And let's do the other side. Go ahead and wrap that up. Okay, grab the other piece, my other link, slide that tail down in the closed loop. And wrap it up. And now just cut off what I don't want. That one's a little longer. The tail is a little longer. I don't need you. Little tail. And push down my end. And now I'm going to attach this to the other side of my focal piece. So I've got one strand that I'm starting down one side of the small rounds, and I've got my center. And now I'm going to put this on the other side. Right there. I think I better put it over here because this, I lay this down. I don't want this crowding it. So that's way over here to the side. So I'm going to put this one right in this other opening over here. So it's about the same distance away from the loop as this first one is. So let's slide it over here. See what that looks like. If I don't think that's going to work, I'll move it over. I'm just going to slide the tail into the opening. And I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, this little loop. So open it up a little more. Yeah. So I'm going to slide my little tail down in this opening right beside this little split here. And let's see what that looks like. Yes, that's good. I was going to put it down just on the other side of my little loop, but I think it's going to be too close to the loop. So I'm putting it over in this larger section here. Yeah. You might decide to do something different, but this is what I'm doing. That's my my alarm telling me to get a move on. Okay, so now I'm going to wrap that closed like I did the others. Oh, come on. Where is it? There it is. Tight quarters in here. It's the other pliers. And wrap that little tail around. And then I'm going to push that little end down. Come on. Okay, here we go. So that's the beginning. Let's nip this off. I don't need this much to wrap. That's one side, the beginning of one side of my bracelet. Obviously, there's going to be more lengths down here, but that's the beginning of the first side. And then I'm going to attach the other side. This is what I meant when I said it's going to be completely different on each side. So we have an asymmetrical bracelet that we have going here. So let's go ahead and attach this. Then you'll get a better idea of what we're going to do. Okay. Now, each of these shells has a front and a back. You need to decide which side you want to show. You could show the more bumpy side, which is really very interesting, or you can show the smooth side as the top side. Decide which one you want to be on top, and then you're going to flip it over. This is going to be the bottom for me. I'm going to slide that into my loop, because once I do that, you'll have to flip it back over to the other side in order for it to fit in the loop. So here's what I mean. I'm turning it over. This is my bottom. I'm sliding it into the closed loop of my focal piece. Then when I get it in there, I flip it over, and that's what it looks like. And I'm ready to wrap. And just wrap it just like I did all of the other pieces. And I like my wrap, the tail of my wrap, to end on the other underside instead of on the side of my bead, if I can avoid it. Because if it's on the side, it could easily catch on something. But if it's underneath, it's going to be resting closer to your skin so that it won't catch on anything. And it won't scratch your skin if you have done your job and made sure that the ends are nice and close against the other wraps. So what I do is wrap it over the top, wrap it over until it's going out to the side, and then I lift up my wire, clip it back at the halfway point of my bead, and then I push that end down. until it's resting against my other wires. And there we have it. Now, the only challenge we have with this particular design is that the focal piece is going right and left, the loop. And so your loop for the loop on your bead needs to be going front to back. So you need to make sure that one is going up and down and the other is going side to side. Because your focal piece is already going side to side with the flat of the loop showing, the other loop needs to be going up and down. So that's the only thing that you need to make sure that you do. And this is the beginning of my bracelet. This is the start. That's the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and link the other pieces. I need to fix this one. I'm going to link the other pieces together on both sides, and then I will come back and show you how to finish it off with your connector, your jump rings, and your clasp that we're going to make. So I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, here's where we are. We've got one side of our bracelet ready to go. We've got the other side of the bracelet started. I've already measured. You want to measure as you go and see how many links you want. Make sure it's going to fit. And once you get to where you've got maybe an inch to an inch and a quarter left, that's what we're going to need to attach our, about an inch and a half, because we're going to put jump rings on. We're going to attach it to this three-pronged attachment. And then we're going to make a clasp. And what I thought we would do is make a clasp out of one of our rhombus beads. So that's going to add on to my bracelet. Right now, my arm is about 7.5 inches. And I need space for my clasp. Right now, it's about 6, a little less than 6.5. So that means I'm going to attach my my connector. That's going to add another 3/8 of an inch or so. I need to put jump rings on there. So that's, yeah, that's going to take me up to not quite 7 inches. And then I'm going to add my clasp, which is going to take me to just about 7 3/4 inches. And that's going to be enough for my bracelet. Now, if you want your bracelet to be a little bit, have a little bit more wiggle room, that's fine. I don't like a lot of wiggle room in my bracelets. I like them to really fit with just maybe a little bit of hang, but not much. So this is good for me, but measure as you go. And that's one of the good things about links. One of the good things about links, you can add as many links as you need until you get it to the size that you want. All right, so let's go ahead and finish this off. What I need to do is put jump rings on one side and attach them to my attachment here, so that then I can make my my clasp. And that clasp is going to link into my little attachment. So let's go ahead and get my jump rings done. So the first thing I need to do is open up my jump rings, and the proper way to open a jump ring is to twist it open, not pull it open. So I put my pliers on one side of my jump ring, and I can either take a second set of pliers and twist it open, or I can take my thumb and just push down, and that will open my jump ring as well. And these two are already open. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that on my outer, the outer row of my links, and I'm going to put my connector on. So I'm going to slide this jump ring inside the first open loop, just like that. Close my jump ring up. Make sure that those ends are flush together. Then I'm going to go to my second row, grab my second jump ring, slide it inside the ring, slide the middle opening of my connector inside my jump ring. Close it up. Oh, get out of there. Really? Let's do that again, shall we? All right. Jump ring into my loop and into my connector loop in the center. If I can stop dropping it. Let's get right up here where you can see what I'm doing, I hope. It goes in the center loop, just like that. And I'm going to close it up. All right, last but not least, let's do that third row. Grab my other jump ring, slide it in that loop, that last loop, and then slide that in the last loop on my connector. Close it up. Make sure the edges are together. And there we go. Okay, and now we are ready to make, let's flip that over, because this is the upside. Here we go. And now we're ready to make our clasp. Isn't that pretty? It's really coming along. Okay, let's make a clasp. So what I need to do is get about 4 inches of wire. I'm going to give myself 5 just to be safe. And second warning. Get a move on, Virginia. Okay. All right. So what I need to do is in order to make my clasp, I need enough for my bead. And if you measure your bead, these are all going to be different sizes, so you're going to have to measure. So I'm going to measure my bead. It's about 5/8 of an inch. And then I need 2 inches on one side for my hook. Let's give it 2 1/4 on one side for my hook. And then I need the rest to go through my bead. So that's 4, let's see what that, I'm going to give myself 2 1/4. And that's about 3/4, so that's 3 inches. And then the other 2 inches will be enough for me to make my loop and my wrap. Sounds good. And I'll have a little left over because I cut 5 inches. So I'm going to cut off, or not cut off, I'm going to bend at 2 1/4 inches. Now, what am I doing? I'm going to bend at 1 1/4 inches. Because you can give yourself 2 inches for your hook. When you bend it in half, that's 1 inch. I'm going to give myself 1 1/8 inches just to make my hook just a tiny bit longer, a tiny, teeny, tiny bit. So I'm going to fold it at the 1 and then 1/8 inch mark. Boop, just like that. And then I'm going to squeeze those ends together as much as I can with my fingers. And when I can't squeeze it anymore because my name is not Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm going to use my pliers to squeeze it the rest of the way until those sides are close together with my wires side by side, just like that. And so then now I'm going to take 1/2 inch of wire. Just going to bend that up. Like that. Yeah. All right. So I bent back 1/2 inch of wire. I bent that up. And I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to grab the 2 ends. I'm going to hold them nice and tight like that. Again, I want them to be side by side, not on top of each other. And I'm going to wrap this short tail around the long stem. And you only need a couple of wraps, just enough to secure it. And when I can't go any further with my fingers, I will use my pliers to complete my wrap. And again, I want this to end down here, right in between the two wires. I wanted to, because this is going to be the underside, I want that little end to rest right there in the middle. I'm going to cut that off. Make sure it's slightly rounded already, because if it's sticking straight out, it's really hard to push that little end down if it's sticking straight out like that. So it's already a little rounded, which is perfect. I'm going to clip that off as close as I can get to the other wires. And that's a really short tail that I can't grab. So I'm going to put it down in the well of my spool, nip that off, and then it goes right down. It went in here and then bounced out. But there's that little tail. And I didn't have to chase it all over the room in my apartment. So yay. Now I'm going to push down this end against the other wires so that it won't snag on anything. There we go. Nice. All right. Next part, we'll make the hook in a minute. Let's go ahead and slide my bead on. Find the hole. There it is. Yay. Slide that on. Let it rest up here at the little knot, the little wraps that I have. And then we're going to make a loop. Now, again, it's going to go in the opposite direction of whichever way the loop is going here. This is up and down. This is side to side. This is up and down. So that means this needs to go side to side because it needs to hook into this loop. If you have two loops going up and down, you're not going to hook together, right? So up and down, side to side, up and down, side to side. Bend it to the side like so. Grab my pliers. Make my loop, and it's going to flip around. You can always switch it around when you need to. Back to the side to side. Bring my wire over the top till it can't go any further. open up my pliers, rotate back, bring that wire underneath. There's my loop. Attach it to my other loop, my closed loop. Oops. And again, remember, I start with the bead upside down, slide it in. Oops, there we go. And then flip it over. Oh, did I do that right? No, slide it in the other way. Yes, that's right, that's right, that's right. And make my loop. Grab my pliers. Grab the loop right between the other loop and the bead and wrap. And once I get it the way I want it to look, depends on how many wraps I want. Let's give it one more, because that's going to make a pretty cap right there on the top. Over there. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Bend that around, cut off the excess. And push down that end. Very good. Now, ooh, isn't that pretty? Look at how that turned out. Nice. And now it's time to make my hook. Make sure everything's side by side the way it's supposed to be. Not ganged up on each other. Grab my round nose pliers. And I'm going to slide it down so that there's just about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/16 of an inch of wire sticking out beyond the pliers. Slide it back almost to the back. And then I'm going to rotate my pliers. I'm going to bend this back just a little bit. I'm going to rotate my pliers and create a hook. So there's my hook. And I'm going to bend it back just a little bit, adjust it to the way I want it to look. Isn't that pretty? And then I'm going to go down here to the bottom of it and just give it a little tweak. I'm just going to turn it up just a little bit at the bottom. Slide that in there, get in there. It just gives it a little ledge on the bottom, just like that. And then just go in and kind of tweak it a little bit to look the way I want it to look. Here we go. There is my hook. Center it a little bit. Yes. Okay. That, ladies and gents, is our bracelet. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, and this little hook just loops right into my connector. And I always like mine really tight against the bead because I don't like it to be able to slide in and out too easily when I put it on. I want it to stay on. So I usually push it really close to the bead, which some people don't like, but you can always open it out a little bit if it's too tight for you. Slide that in, and there we go. That is our bracelet. It's so different than anything I think I've ever done. I love it. What do you think? And I love that we made our clasp. Well, you all know how much I love decorative clasps. I love the fact that the clasp looks like the rest of the bracelet. And we have our little cast piece in the center as our focal. Flip that over the way it's supposed to be. There we go. Yeah, okay, I messed it up. You know what? I'm gonna put it on my arm. Let's put it on. Oops. Wow, Virginia. My goodness. Not that hard. Let's put it on. Yay. There it is. Yay! What do you think? I love it. Oh my goodness. I really, really like this so much. It's so different. I wasn't sure how it would come out. It came out great. Okay, that's it. That's our piece for today. I am so excited about this. I can't tell you. I love it when things come together. And I wasn't sure if it would. Yay! I'm wearing this today. Oh, and you know what? I wanted something very neutral because you know how I love color. I love all kinds of color. And so I wanted to do something that could take us through the entire yield because this looks like sand and stone, which really is the colors that it is. I mean, and how much more natural can you be than mother of pearl beads? And then I've got my crazy lace agate stone beads, and it's all very natural tone, neutral toned. I can wear this with any and everything. And the mother of pearl shells catch the light. So you pick up a little tiny bit of red and some pink in there. And it's just every time the light hits it, it's a different color. And it's the same way with the crazy lace agate beads. They pick up all kinds of different colors. So I love natural things. I love the natural shells. I love the natural stones, the semi-precious stones. That's what you're going to get in your kit. You're going to get some shells, two types of shell, two shapes of mother of pearl shells. You're going to get some semi-precious 4mm beads, all different ones. So it's going to be all different ones and all different colors. I think I've already started packing up the kits. So as you can see, there's going to be all different colors in here. It's going to be awesome. So you'll all get different colors of shells and beads and types of beads. And it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. Something different and pretty to wear that nobody will have but you. So that is our piece for the day. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoy your bracelet as much as I'm going to enjoy mine, because I keep looking at it. But anyway, let us know what you think and what you thought. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you had any problems with the video, let me know that too, because I'm all about wanting to improve the situation for your benefit. So feel free to get in touch with me at my email, which is jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. Or you can get in touch with us on the library Facebook page, which is facebook.com/DeKalb Library. That's facebook.com/DeKalb, DEKALB Library, LIBRARY. I'm going to say that one more time. Facebook.com/DEKALB LIBRARY. Scroll down, find the picture of the piece, leave us a comment, leave us a like, tell us what you thought. We love to hear from you. If you make it, please send us a picture either to my email or to the Facebook page. I would love, love, love to see them. So until next time, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.